Hey y'all, it's Andrea with The Cutest Little Thing. Thanks so much for hopping on to watch today's video. If you are new to my channel, thanks so much for stopping by. I hope you like what you see today. And if you've hung out with me before, welcome back. If you love thrift flips, home decor, DIYs, upcycling, and all of the things, then you are at the right place. I love to go thrifting and bring those unwanted items home and make them over and give them new life. All right, let's get started with today's projects. For this project I'm going to share with you, I just have this little simple cutting board. I like to pick these up at the thrift store when I see them. And our color paint here is Fusions. I believe this is Cathedral Taupe, which is a light beige color. It's very pretty. And as you can see, I'm just taking my little water bottle there and spritzing over that paint just to help it spread, because I want more of a washed look on this cutting board. So I didn't want my paint really thick. And y'all, look at this little transfer I found in my stash. Y'all know how I am with little critters, especially little piggies. I think they are so cute. So I just simply let that Fusion paint dry. Fusion paint has a built-in sealer, so I didn't have to worry about sealing that paint before I applied my transfer. I just went in with my little transfer tool that comes in most transfer packets. And you just want to rub back and forth while you slowly lift up on that clear piece of film. And you want to work nice and slow pulling that up, because if you pull too fast, you may end up tearing your transfer where it does not adhere all the way on your piece. And when you pull it, it could tear it. So if you work nice and slow, you can see if there's a little piece that's still clinging to the wrap. And that way you can just lay that back down and rub it some more. And y'all, just that simple. Look how cute that is. I did want to add some little feet on the bottom and sort of maybe make this like a little mini riser. Super cute for your farmhouse decor. So I just painted those little wooden beads the same color. And I was taking the end of a paintbrush there and sticking in that hole to sort of hold that for me. That's a little bit of an easier way to paint those wooden beads. And I used wood glue to attach them to the bottom of our little cutting board. I also used a dab of hot glue because that hot glue is going to dry immediately. And it takes that wood glue a little bit longer to dry. So that way you're going to have instant hold with your hot glue. And then over time, that wood glue is going to dry as well, giving you a little bit more of a better hold. I wanted to distress this a little bit, so I'm going in with Waverly chalk paint here. And I am just barely getting any on my paintbrush, and then I'm dabbing it off on the paper there. And I'm just doing a light dry brushing technique, and that's just giving it a little bit of a distressed look over this entire little mini riser. This project is super simple. It was super quick, but super cute. I just love that little Piggy transfer, and I thought it looked perfect on this little mini riser that we made with that cutting board. And of course, I did decide I wanted to add a little bow, just something simple. So I grabbed some burlap ribbon that I had, and I just made a couple of little loops, tied it in the middle with jute string. And then I took another little piece of that ribbon and folded it in half and hot glued that to the center of that bow, just where it would have the little ribbons hanging down, the little tails. And that's all I wanted, was that little piece of burlap, just neutral and simple. And I thought it went with the little Piggy and the farmhouse style perfectly. Hot glued that in the corner. And I just love it. And then to seal in our transfer, I'm using DIY's clear wax, and I just went ahead and went over that entire board, over that transfer. That's going to seal that transfer in, and also the paint we use to do our distressing. And y'all just look how cute this turned out. Let me know what you think of this one. Now on to part 2 of that little project. I couldn't help myself. I knew I had this Piggy in my stash to match our little mini riser we just made. So I just showed you that little hole he has in his right leg. So I just took my hot glue gun and I just applied a little bit of that hot glue inside of that hole, and then I would kind of take that napkin and wipe away the excess. And I did that a couple times until I got it full, and I knew that that paint would go on smooth and camouflage where you couldn't see that hole anymore. I wanted to match and everything to blend with the riser we just did, so I chose that Waverly chalk paint in the color Mineral to paint this Piggy. And I gave him a good full coat. I let that dry, and then I did a little bit of touch up. Now, this Piggy had so much detail and texture. I wanted to dry brush, do a dry brushing technique after that paint dried. So I took the color Plaster, which is a beautiful off-white color in the Waverly. And I got a little bit on my brush, and you want to offload the paint off of your brush. You don't want a whole lot of paint on your brush when you're doing a dry brushing technique, and you want to be light-handed going over your piece, and you just want the detail on your piece to pick up that paint off of your paintbrush. And you can go over it as many times as you want until you're satisfied with the look that you get. It's better to start out with not as much because you can always add more, but if you get too much, you have to go back and repaint your whole piece and then try again. So it's definitely better to add more than try to take away. And as you saw, after I let him dry, I just took some jute string and wrapped around his little neck, and then I wanted to add a little bow onto that. And I'm just using that same burlap ribbon that we used on our mini riser. And y'all, I found this basket in my stash. I thought, how perfect. It was the perfect size. And then the colors on it, everything about it was perfect. I didn't want to change a thing. I stuck that little Piggy in there with a piece of drop cloth that I had cut, and then added some greenery. And I wanted to add a little something on that piece of drop cloth. So I have this Piggy stamp, and I just inked that up using my archival ink that I get from Amazon. And at first I just tried stamping that directly onto the drop cloth, and it was a little too light. That material didn't quite pick up that ink like I liked. So I took a piece of muslin cloth and I cut that into a little square just big enough for my stamp. And I'm showing you here. And I just stamped the Piggy onto that muslin cloth, that little square piece of muslin cloth. And then that worked much better. It absorbed that ink much better. And then I just hot glued that little muslin cloth square right onto the piece of drop cloth that was hanging out of the basket. And it turned out so cute. And those stamps I got off of Amazon. Everything I use in today's video will be linked in the description below if you're watching on YouTube. And if you're watching on Facebook, feel free to ask any questions. And there he is. He could not have turned out any cuter. I love him. Let me know what y'all think of this one. For our next project, I grabbed another wooden board I had in my stash. This is one of those pieces. Do you ever grab something out of your stash, you start working on it, and then it gets pushed back in your stash and you just forget all about it? Well, this is one of those. I had started doing a paint technique with this, and it got pushed back in my stash, and I kind of forgot about it. So I grabbed it back out. this day, and I wanted to finish using up that Waverly in the color Mineral. I didn't have much left, and I was just kind of finishing up some paint that day. So I did thin that paint. If your chalk paint ever sits and it starts getting too thick on you, you can always add a little bit of water to it, and that just helps it spread easier. You can also, I like to take this spray bottle and spray my surface, especially if I'm painting on wood or something like that, and you can just spray your surface directly, and that helps your paint spread a little more evenly and easier as well. So I just did a good full coat. Again, this is the color Mineral in the Waverly chalk paint. I did the bottom as well. You can kind of see the wood color that it was prior to the paint. I did a quick dry, and I did have to go back and do some touch up. Now I grabbed my IOD Whispering Willow transfer packet. I had my eye on this big transfer for a while, and I just thought it would be perfect to put on this large style tray here. So I just cut it out, and I left it in one big piece. I placed it, I centered it onto that tray, and carefully, you want to be sure it's where it needs to be before you lay it down, because it will start adhering to your piece as soon as it makes contact. So you want to be sure it's centered and even and everything. And then I just take that transfer tool and just rub back and forth. The bigger transfers are a little more time consuming to get them all the way adhered to your piece, but you just want to keep working and maybe kind of work in a section at a time, rubbing that transfer tool back and forth, slowly lifting up on that piece of clear film as you go. And y'all, I did not seal my paint before I applied my transfer. It's always better to seal your paint, or either use a paint that has a built-in sealer in it before you apply your transfer. But in this case, I did not. You know how that goes. Sometimes we get ahead of ourselves. But thankfully, it adhered to my piece just fine, probably because it was such a hard, it was a wooden surface, and I didn't have a bit of trouble with it adhering. So that was definitely a plus. And look how pretty that looks. I think it goes with that beautiful mineral color so well. I've always loved that color. It's got some gray tones as well as all of those tan and beige tones as well. I did take a piece of sandpaper. I wanted to scuff it up just a little bit, give it a little bit of a distressed look. So I did go all the way around those edges, and I even lightly sanded over that transfer just to break it up a little bit here and there. Not a whole lot, but I did just want to distress that slightly. And once I did that, I just wanted to seal in that transfer and also that chalk paint. I'm using DIY clear wax. And there's little Allie peeking at you there, waving at the camera. So I just went completely over that piece using a little sponge brush. And you want to just be sure you get that wax into that paint, so it'll get that good and sealed and protected. I went around those edges as well. And that's that, you guys. I love how this piece ended up turning out. So simple, yet so beautiful. I absolutely love that IOD transfer. Let me know what you guys think of this. I had my eye on another transfer in that book, so I had this little mini tray. These trays you can pick up at Dollar Tree, and they are super cute for only $1.25. And again, I'm using the Waverly Mineral Chalk Paint. Again, I'm just trying to use what I have in my stash, finish up this paint. So I'm just painting this tray that color, the color Mineral. And again, I am adding a little water to my paint to where it won't be quite so thick. And this is the transfer, y'all. I think this is so cute. I loved it when I first saw it. And I just couldn't quite find the right piece to apply it to. So I thought this little mini tray would be super cute. So I did have to cut a little bit off the bottom so it would fit in my tray. And I just trimmed the edge there a little bit where I could just lay it flush in the bottom of this mini tray. And just placing it in there, getting it centered in my tray. And again, same technique, guys, using that transfer tool to rub back and forth while gently pulling up on that piece of clear film while that transfer adheres to my piece. And now this wood, y'all have probably gotten one of these trays from Dollar Tree before. It's sort of like that raw wood material. So this transfer came off super easily. Super cute. Now I did want to embellish it just a little bit. I have these little stumps. You can get packs of these at Dollar Tree as well. And I just wanted to hot glue it down in the corner there. And these little birds are so cute. I get these in bulk packs off of Amazon. And I wanted to paint her green so she would blend with my piece a little bit better. So I just chose the color Celery in the Waverly as well. And I gave her a quick paint job, just stippling on that paint over her. And I ended up doing 2 coats. I love adding these little birds to projects. They just add so much to your piece. And I will link these in the description below. I also had some of the reindeer moss I hot glued to the top of that little stump, and then I also hot glued some at the bottom, sort of like it was growing at the bottom of my stump as well. That's on the transfer there. I just thought adding the natural elements like this added so much to the piece and just made it even more cute. And then I added a little bit around that little stump piece that I hot glued there in the corner. And I just kept adding little by little until I was satisfied with how it looked. And then I hot glued my little bird sitting on the stump. And now this is the bottom. I wanted to cover up that little hole just so my moss wouldn't fall through or anything, to create a base for it. So I did just cut a little piece of fabric and hot glued to cover that hole where nothing would fall through there. And I just touched up my bird with a little bit of wax. And this turned out so cute. I love that mushroom transfer. I love the little natural elements that I added with it. And this is just a super quick, super simple, inexpensive decor piece. Y'all let me know what you think of this one. All right, y'all, we're at the end of today's video, so let's see those finished products one more time. We have our sweet little piggy in a basket with our matching little mini riser. I just love how these two turned out. So simple yet so cute, and they go so well together. And that basket was absolutely perfect for our little piggy, colors and all. Then we have our tray, our larger tray here with that beautiful IOD transfer. And then we have our little mini mushroom tray with the cute little bird. Grab you one of these little trays from the Dollar Tree and an IOD transfer, and you have the cutest home decor. Thank you guys so much for watching today's video. Thank you for all of your support of the cutest little thing. Please like, subscribe, and share around. I will see you guys on our next video. Have a blessed day.